Okay, welcome students. In this video, we're going to try to make the connection between areas of different geometrical shapes and their volumes. We're going to be dealing with prisms and also pyramids, and we'll see a kind of a neat connection between a regular prism and making a pyramidal prism. So first of all, area with a rectangle is just the length times the width. And that will give us, you can see here, it'll give us like 84 units squared. And anytime we take, say, like inches times inches, remember, that'll always give me an exponent of 2. So all our units will be squared. Now to take a rectangle that's 2-dimensional and turn it into a 3-dimensional figure, all we have to do is add the height. You can see our length is 12, our width is 7, and now we're going to basically take 4 of these and stack them on top of each other. Say like if they were 4 inches high, each one would be an inch, and I would stack it. So we take the area, which is at 84 square units, and then we add one more dimension to it by multiplying it by that height, and then it will increase those units, 7 times 12 times 4, whatever that number would be. Now once we take that volume of a prism and we want to turn it to a pyramid, we simply take that volume that we have in step number 2, you can see right here, and all we have to do is all the math is the same except for that last step right here is where we divide it by 3. In other words, we cut it by 1/3. So we start with an area, we go to a 3-dimensional prism. From there we can go to a pyramid, and to get that pyramid we take the answer that we get from step 2 here, which is 112, and divide it by 3. Okay, the next one that we're looking at is to take a triangle, just a flat surface, and take a triangle to a triangular prism, from a prism to a triangular pyramid. We know that the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. In this case, I have 4 is the base, 3 is the height. 4 times 3 is 12, divided by 2 will give me 6 units squared. Now to take that triangle, we can see it here on the bottom, it has the same dimensions. All we have to do is add height to it. So I'll take 1/2 the base times the height, which is 6 units. And I times it by the height, so that'll give me another 6 that I have here, and I get 36 units cubed. Now remember, we have 3 dimensions, length times width times height. Well, that will give us units of a cube. Now again, to turn this to a pyramid, just like we did with a rectangle, all we have to do is take the volume that we found from step 2 of the triangular prism, and we just simply have to divide it by 3. Okay? And so that cuts it into 1/3. 3 into 36 will give us 12 units cubed for the triangular pyramid. Now this next portion of this video talks about the pentagon. And what we're describing here will work with a pentagon, a 5-sided figure, with an octagon that may be 8, or a hexagon, which will be 6-sided figures. And I think you have a couple of those on your worksheet today. So we're going to be taking just a simple idea of a triangle, finding the area of this triangle right here, and it's 1/2 times 18.8, which is this base, is the width of the sides, plus the height from the outside edge to the center of the pentagon, and anyway that'll give me the area of a triangle, which is 121.26. Now from there, I know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these triangles. So if I had an 8-sided figure, which would be an octagon, then I would have 8 of these type of triangles. In this one I have 5, so I say multiply 121.26 by the number of sides. So the number of sides is 5. So the area inside this pentagon is 5 times 121.26, which gives us 606.3 units squared. Now once I know the area of inside here, you can see the base here and the base inside here. It's the same idea. I know what one of these is, and so I just need to simply multiply that by the height. So you can see here the step number 2 is the same. And now I just multiply 606.3 by the height, which is 10. And that gives me 6,063 cubic units inside this pentagonal prism. And again, just like with the rectangle and triangular pyramid, to turn this prism into a pyramid, we simply take that last volume that we have for the prism and we simply divide it by 3. So I hope you see that pattern, that we're using basic geometric shapes to build complex shapes, and for those complex shapes we can get a prism, and from that prism we can divide whatever area we have from that prism, divide it by 3 to get the area of the pyramid. Okay, the next figure that we're talking about is the basic circle, where we have a radius, and I think most of us are familiar with it, pi r squared. So we take 7 centimeters when we square it. 7 times 7 is 49, and then centimeters squared would give us that power of 2 to make sure that this is a unit squared, which would be area. Now to go from a circle to a cylinder, we simply use the same formula for the bottom that we have right here. You see it, pi r squared, and then we have to multiply it by a third dimension, which would be 11 in this figure. So pi r squared times h would give us a volume of the cylinder, and I haven't gone ahead and did the math. You can go ahead and probably do that on your own, see what you come up with. But anyway, once we get that cylinder, it's kind of like a rectangular prism. To turn it to the rectangular prism to a pyramid, we just divide it by 3. So that's the same way we would do with a cylinder, and instead of getting a pyramid, we get that nice smooth round shape that we have as in a cone. Now when we take a sphere, which is also derived from the idea of a circle, we have to use a different formula completely. It's 4 pi r cubed, and because we're dealing with a volume, there's that third dimension based upon the radius, and then it's divided by 3. Okay, the last shape we need to talk about is a trapezoid, and the trapezoid is based upon a parallelogram, and we basically take 1/2 times the base plus the second base. There's actually 2 bases. B is usually the larger base, A is usually the smaller base, so we add these 2 together. It would extend this rectangle way out here in this shape, so we figure out the area of a rectangle by adding these 2, and then what do? Is we cut it in half. Now we take 1/2, the small base, which would be 3, plus the large base, which would be 6, would be 9, so 1/2 9 would be 4.5, and then we times it by 3.7 to get the area of a trapezoid. Now again, to take that 2-dimensional figure, to change it to a 3-dimensional figure, we have to times it by a length, and in this case we can see that the length that we times it by would be 10 meters in this case, and it would give us the units of meters squared. So this is the connection between volume and area. You usually start with an area, from there you add another dimension, you go to a volume. And once we get those prisms, those basic prisms, to turn any of those prisms to a pyramid, we simply divide that area by 3. So yeah, the last slide on this video will be the odd answers to the worksheet that you have today. So thanks for watching and have a good afternoon.